Starting recording. Good afternoon, this is Jack from the Artchart.net, and this is an intraday video for the afternoon of Thursday, the 15th of February. Our disclaimer, we do this for educational purposes only. We're here to share our technical analysis with you. We hope you can take some of what we're doing and learn from it, and to interpret your own charts, and we're not here to issue trading signals. Alright, let's get started on indices. Now, this morning I was talking about us reaching the possible high area, and there were a couple of reasons for that, but one of them was that we had reached the right, okay, we've made the we'd reached the possible. Wait a second, the chart doesn't look quite right. Where's that wrong? Okay, right. Anyway, we'd reached the possible nearest targets. Well, we reached the full targets on all of the buy signals. We'd got sell signals fixed on NQ and TF, and we had established a decent-looking possible rising wedge resistance trend line on ES. Now, I was saying when I was talking about these channels that these were probably going to convert into wedges on the way down. This may well be it. Now, at the lows, I was saying that there was a decent case for a retest of the high, and the reason was that a reversal pattern was forming, and a possible reversal pattern was forming, and there was a pretty good case for a retest of the high to set up the second high of a double top. Obviously, we have seen that. Has this set a possible 60-minute sell signal brewing? Yes, not a high-quality one, but a decent one nonetheless. How is this making us look on NQ and TF? Well, TF is looking very good to the downside here. NQ, have we established a potential trend line here? You know, just moving the trend line around to check the next high. That's hang on, wait a second. It hasn't got a decent anchor, but there is very, very much a potential wedge resistance trend line here. So I'm going to draw that in as a possible. It's not an ideal one, but it's a decent one, and actually, of the three of them, NQ is the one that's now testing the daily middle band. It's already on a 60-minute sell signal. If we look at TF, then we can see this TF channel that I drew in. TF has tested resistance, it's gone back, it's almost retested the high, it's already on a 60-minute sell signal. I was talking about this as being in the high zone. Ideally, it would go a little higher, we'd test the daily middle band on SPX, but there's no need to do that. And the short-term signals really have topped out already. Let's have a quick look at how that looks on the RTH charts. Now, I'm going to come back to the weekly chart later. There's a reason I've got that there, but let's have a look at the daily charts first. Now we're on RSI 5 buy signals, and these are not going to make target. That doesn't matter. So because we can go lower and then come back and make the targets on those. That's the same on pretty much all three. NDX is at some risk of reaching the possible nearest target on that today, but the main ones I'm looking at are the hourly charts. And what I'm looking at on there are the possible RSI 5 sell signals brewing on the hourlies, and at these RSI 14 buy signals which fix. Now this has got pretty close to target, has made the possible nearest target on SPX. We've made a higher high over this morning's high here. This is a potential double top. We do have an RSI 5 sell signal brewing. How does that look on NDX? Let's have a look. Actually, hang on, that's 15 minutes. Right, on the hourly, we have made the full target. We have a possible 60-minute sell signal brewing on the RSI 14, and we've got another one on the RSI 5 on RUT. RUT has made the full buy signal target. We've got a possible RSI 14 sell signal, which would start brewing on a full retest of this high, which we haven't quite retested yet. And we would get a possible RSI 5 sell signal brewing there too. So my lean would be that RUT at least would go a little higher, but really we're at the stage where we can turn any time. Now I'm going to come back to this, talking about this in when we're talking about ZB, but there is, on the bigger picture, I am seeing a possibility that we could see a very fast move down to the obvious target. The obvious target is this trend line here. I've currently got that in about the 2160 area, and at the moment we're thinking it's out of range because of time. We don't think we've got time to get there. If we were to see a very fast move, then we would have time to get there. And I'm seeing a possible setup on ZB, particularly for potentially a very fast move down here. And I'm going to come back to that. It's still an outsider. It's a long way away, and it's going to be a pretty pretty intense move to get there, and I'm not really seeing a reason why I should do that intense move, but it is possible. We have broken this rising support already. Now I'll come back on ZB to talk about why I think we might be seeing a case for that. All right, but it's only tentative, but you know, it is worth bearing in mind. All right, moving on from indices, let's have a look at DX. DX is rallying a bit. We thought about doing a 60-minute buy signal, haven't had one yet. This looks like a bear flag forming. This could retest the low and do a slightly bigger rally. I'm seeing a case for a rally, looking particularly at the HG and GC charts here. So we may well see a bit of a rally before continuation down. Stands target at 87 is a major support trend line on my longer term USD stuff, and is a very, very obvious target. In fact, I was talking about it on Chart Chat about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and saying that the closer we got to it, the more compelling it was as a target, and the more magnetic an effect it would be likely to start exerting. Because when you get close to a target like that, then you start getting a lot of pressure to actually hit it. And we're close enough that we're feeling that sort of pressure, and that's a very obvious next target. So I like that target of Stan's. CL. CL has broken up from the channel, and it has back tested the broken channel resistance. This is a nice setup. I'm expecting to go a bit higher probably. We've already made it to the 38.2% fib retracement. That's 61.34, and we're retesting that at the moment. I would love to see this get back to, I think this is a target Stan was probably talking about last night, and this is the 50% fib retracement at 62.36. How much chance do I think that this has of getting back to the weak pivot? Not a lot, in my view. That would be beyond the 61.8, but I'm just going to call out the 61.8 target, which is 63.38, just in case. But I'm not really seeing a good case for that. It may be that we're going to fail here at 61.50. I would love to see us get up to the 50%, which is 62.36. That would be really nice, and that would be a splendid place to go short again for the next move down. Right, NG. NG made a lower low overnight. What does that mean? Well, potentially nothing. We've got a nice looking double bottom here on a breakup and conversion of 2.645. We'd be looking at a target in the 2.75 area, which isn't a bad match with what Sam was talking about. Are we going to do that? Well, maybe. I've got the weakest. In fact, this is so weak I've not even marked it as a divergence, but I've got the weakest of all possible 60-minute buy signals here. I was thinking if we did another retest of the low, and we still could do this, we could set up a decent-looking possible 60-minute buy signal, and this would make me a lot more confident about this going up. As it is, it's a maybe, and it's a definite maybe. So, you know, it could play out, and it's trying. So we'll see whether it does it. But if it can get back over, if it can sustain trade over 2.6, then that puts 2.645 in range, and on a break over that, we're looking at a pretty clear target in the 2.75 area. We could do that. What's my level of confidence? Not huge. We made a lower low. If we were going to go and hit the 2.4 area, this would kind of be a pretty obvious place to do that. So anyway, I'm keeping an open mind. We shall see. GC. GC has got a 60-minute sell signal fixed, and I think it is probably topping out for a retracement, and the bottom of that retracement, ideally, that would tag the monthly backtest, the monthly pivot. The bottom of that retracement would be a fairly compelling looking long entry up into the 1380s and higher. I really like that. I'd like to see that retracement. It's possible we're not going to see it, but if we do see a rally on US dollar, then it's definitely open. We could do that monthly pivot, and that would be a very nice long entry. I would love to see it do that. Don't know if it will, but I would love to see it. Right, ZB. Now, I want to talk about the TNX chart mainly here, but what we've done here is, I call this nested double bottoms. This isn't really a proportionate double bottom setup, though. Ideally, you've got the first of the nested double bottoms pretty close to 50% of the way, and this double top was there, but this double bottom was well short of that. We've made the target already. We've retraced a bit. My personal feeling is that we're going up, and if we see a sustained break over this level here, which is 145.09, then that would give me a pretty solid looking target in the 147.13 area. I would like that. I would also mention that there is a larger potential double top here. If we were to see a breaking conversion of 147.22, then that would give us a target in the 152.11 area. Now, Stan's not taking this seriously as a target because we haven't got time to get there, but let's have a look at the TNX chart and let's talk about the circumstances under which potentially we could see this make target. Because this has got... I'm not huge on correlations. I've said this many times that I'm not huge on correlations, and there are good reasons why I'm not huge on correlations. But sometimes, when you find things are happening, when you have a traditional correlation and they both happen to be moving in the right direction for that correlation at the same time, i.e. in this case it's ZB going up and equities going down, then you can find a very strong correlation which is reinforced by the fact that they're trending in the same direction. Now, we could see this potentially on TNX on the next leg down. TNX heading down with equities, ZB heading up with equities. What is the overall pattern setup on TNX? Well, we've got this falling megaphone here, and the first real sign of weakness here is going to be a break of this support here, currently in about the 28.3 area approximately. We have not yet seen that first break, but that break opens up the next target. The next target is this trend line here, which is currently in the 25.25 area. This would be equivalent, I think, and the correlation between ZB and TNX is a sort of shifting inverse one, but I'd be thinking that could well get us back to that 152, 153. This is the triangle that we thrust up from. And I wouldn't be surprised to see this break. If you look on the bigger picture on TNX, look at this. We're overthrowing a wedge. This is suggesting that we might actually retrace all of the triangle and a little more, which could potentially get us back to 154, 155. Under what circumstances could we see that? We could see that potentially under a flight to safety trade if we saw a very strong move down in equities. Does it mean that's going to happen that way? No, but the possibility is there. And the TNX pattern setup would favour a larger retracement than we are currently looking at, a larger rally than we're currently looking at. And it could be that it would play out that way. It's just a possible scenario at the moment, but it's a possible scenario with some weight. So it's possible we could see a much larger move down on equities than we're expecting, and a much larger move up on ZB. Where would that move on equities go if it is a lot stronger than what we're looking for at the moment? Well, at the moment we're looking for really the 2400 to 2470 area, I think. And that's a pretty good match with the weekly lower band. But the natural target, if this is the end of, this was basically this is wave 1 of the bull market from 2009, this is wave 2, and this is what I was talking about on the video the other day, is likely to be wave 3. Now the question is, we're finishing wave 3 or it is finished, but the question is, are we in the 4th wave of this 3rd wave? In which case 2400 to 2450 is very much a reasonable target. Or have we finished the wave 3 and we're currently in the major wave 4 before we then see a major wave 5? If we're in a major wave 4, we should go and hit this trend line. So at the moment I'm working on the assumption that we're in 4 of 3 rather than major wave 4. But if we're in major wave 4, then yeah, we could go a lot lower. It could be a lot stronger. And that target would be in the 2260 area, and I'd be wondering whether that would break and take us to rising support from the 2009 low, which is not far lower, but that's in about the 2100 area. That is not a main scenario. It's an outsider scenario, but it is one to bear in mind. And I am very much bearing it in mind. And if we see a much more violent move than expected, we could see those moves on TNX, CB, and on SPX. We're not seeing a strong case for those at the moment. It would require an awful lot of, maybe a major trigger of some kind, who knows. And it's very difficult to call these things, but this potential setup is there, and sometimes these potential setups do play out. Right, HG. HG, we have got... Right, HG, we have got a 60-minute sell signal fixed. I think this is a double top forming here. We have broken the megaphone resistance, which is great because that gives us a firm bull flag target back up at a retest of this high here. And if we see USD do what is we're looking at here, I've got a trend line at 3.5 that could be hit here. and I'm thinking of that as a real possibility, although far from a certainty. So I mean, if we get there, we get there. If we don't, we don't. But short term, this looks like a double top forming. I think we're going to see a retracement on HG. This is going to set up, what I was saying last night was this, even by HG standards, this is an unsustainably steep support trend line. So I think we're going to see a retracement, and then we will continue up. That retracement, if this potential double top is anything to go by, could get us back into the 3.16 to 17 area, and that would be a reasonable target. It's not particularly close to any pivots, but we're into next week. We don't know when next week's weekly pivot's going to be, and I'm sure as hell it's going to be higher than this one. So we shall see. It may be a match with that. We're not going to know really till the end of the week. But looking for a retracement here, could it be that HG is just going to shrug this all off and head straight up? Well, it is HG. I'm not going to be shorting this, but I will be a buyer at the bottom of a retracement if we see it. And I think we may well see it. Right, KC. KC stands leaning bullish here. I'm wondering what the hell it's doing. It is in a triangle, we think. I'm still leaning towards seeing a retest this low, and ideally retest of this low until we see strong evidence to the contrary. But I'm disappointed that this double top really failed. This is some sort of triangle, shorter term and longer term forming here. Stan's leaning long on that, and he's the triangle expert, so he may be right. Right, SB. SB is rallying a bit, which is it's broken the short-term declining resistance. We may need to see a retest of this high at the monthly pivot. That'll be tedious, but all these flags on the soft commodities have been a bit tedious. The largest flag, CC, yesterday morning I said the wedge had turned into a channel, and I flagged the possibility we're going to head back to channel resistance, and there we are. We're at channel resistance. What am I looking for here? I'm looking for reversal. I'm not expecting to see a breakup. We may need to see a retest of that high. That would set as possible 60-minute sell signal brewing, I think. And I'm expecting a reversal back down towards channel support, which is now slightly over 2,000. This is rolled into May now. Apologies for the delay on that. It's been a busy few days. Right, ZW. I'm going to take some questions at the end, by the way. We'll just get the main recording out of the way, and then I'll pause it and we'll take some questions. Right, ZW has broken this rising support. Just need to move this trend line a bit, but it's still broken. I'm wondering about this potential double top here. I'm not seeing any particularly good reason for ZW to go down here, but it's possible. It may be that we're just adjusting into an alternate rising support trend line. So keeping an open mind, the natural target in my view is still 80. And we haven't reached that yet. GBP USD finally off the floor. We're looking at, we should be going to megaphone resistance, which is slightly over 1.415. And we've got a potential double bottom set up here. If we break and convert this, then we're heading back to a retest this high, which is really what the target is. The target goes slightly higher, but the first target, it's always alternate targets when it takes you to beyond the top of the trend. So the first target would be the retest this high. And that's what I'm expecting to see. Chances are it will continue higher after that. Hang on, I'll take questions at the end. Right, EURUSD. EURUSD, we are looking at a retest of this high soon. I think on stand scenario we would be going higher. I'm not seeing any reason why it wouldn't go higher. No negative divergence at the moment. We could get a 60-minute sell signal brewing, depending on how it gets back to the high. USD JPY. Still kicking around here at the bottom, still on 60-minute buy signal. It broke the ideal support trend line here. That wasn't a surprise. The reason I had this in thin line was it was just a postulated level. It may need to establish another. I'm not seeing a particularly obvious one at this level. It may need to go lower to establish it. USD CAD. USD CAD, we've got a possible head and shoulders forming here. Not sure which way Stan's leaning on this at the moment, but I think at the moment we're potentially going back to retest this low. So if the weekly pivot remains resistance, and it looks as though it might be getting a test shortly, that's where the ideal right shoulder high would be in any case. Then we see if that holds its resistance, but if it holds its resistance and rejects there, we could go a long way down from here on this setup, because this is a potential head and shoulders here. Australian dollar. Australian dollar, we've obviously made the inverted head and shoulders target. I was looking at a potential flag forming here, but we've gone beyond it. Possible we could be forming a bigger picture IHS here. This could be the right shoulder. The ideal right shoulder low would have been made already. The neckline's pretty much horizontal. If we break and convert 79.75, then we could well go back and retest this high. As it is, I have mentioned when we saw this decline the first time that there was a pretty good case for heading up towards 82. I would still like to see that trend line hit. It doesn't have to be hit, but I would still like to see it hit. Certainly, it would be neater, and it would give a better entry. NZUSD. I'd be looking for a fail there. I think Stan's expecting that to go up from there. I've got a really, really nice bear flag wedge though. So until demonstrated otherwise, I'd be expecting that to hold. NZUSD has gone higher, pretty close to retest this high, probably going to retest it. Not seeing any negative divergence at the moment. All right, in that case, that's a wrap for the main recording. So I'm going to stop the recording now.